Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wires are crossed sometimes, but I have a new attitude. I am so honored and excited about being with you today to talk about spring renewal. In other words, the renewing of our spirits. Sometimes we have to recharge. Sometimes we have to, like he said earlier, we got to change our batteries. Some of us are actually still running off of those old Duracell batteries that says it keeps going and going and going and going. And sometimes you've got to change batteries, or in this new day and time, you can renew your batteries, right? You can take the same old batteries and you can renew them to use them again. And that's what we have to do sometimes with our spirit. Your spirit is your energy. Without your spirit being renewed, you become, this person that's, I like to look at it as, when my spirit is not renewed, I'm just existing. And sometimes we are just existing and we are not taking advantage of this beautiful thing called life, because we can get so charged up with stuff, and we can allow life to beat us down. So you have to recharge your battery. And to me, that's what spring is all about. Spring renewal, springing into the newness of who you really are. Now, listen, sometimes we have to think about what will renew ourselves in order for us to have balance in our life. The key to life, and we say this all the time, is balance. You got to know when to hold, you got to know when to let go, you got to know when to give, know when not to give. Sometimes we give what we don't even have. We don't even have the energy anymore. And because we're on automatic pilot. Somebody asked us, and we just say yes without even taking into consideration, do I have the energy, or am I tired, or do I need to renew my batteries? And so sometimes we are out of balance, giving more, doing more than what we're able to do. And then we wonder why we get mentally exhausted, physically exhausted, emotionally exhausted. And when all those things occur, then guess what happens? We become spiritually exhausted and burned out. And when you're spiritually burned out, again, you're just going through the motion. Renewing of our spirit starts with embracing the new. Because if you're doing the same old thing, then you can expect the same old outcome. Sometimes we don't have the newness in our life. We continue to do the same thing over and over again, and we expect somehow, some way, it's going to show up different. But if I continue to do the same thing, if I continue to have them same old thoughts, if I continue to allow those things to occur, then guess what? I'm going to have the same outcome. It could be a new project, it could be a new person, but if you apply the same old thoughts, then guess what? You're going to get the same results. So we're talking about the renewing of our spirits. It starts with embracing the new. Now, the question is, what can we begin to think about that we can do to renew ourselves to have a life that is better balanced? I'm very guilty of not necessarily knowing the importance or looking at the importance of balance, of resting. Like it's just like we go, 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 go. And I tell you all the time, we have all these thoughts, 92,000 thoughts. And from that, we make major decisions and choices in our lives. And then we wonder why. Why am I so mentally tired? Why am I? It's because you are out of balance. I remember telling my daughter one day, oh my goodness, I took a nap and I felt guilty. How many of us sometimes we feel guilty? We're so conditioned that we must always be doing something. We have to always be on the go. And we don't even know how to relax. We don't even know how to shut it down. Ooh, honey, let me tell you, when you learn how to take a nap, when you learn how to rest your mind, the importance of meditation, and stop trying to be in control of everything. Oh, it's the renewing of your spirit. Oh, there's nothing like it. Now, the question that we must begin to ask ourselves, I heard this example this week. I heard this lady said, some of us are doing things that we don't want to do. And so the question that we should always ask ourselves is this: when something is being asked of you, you should ask yourself, is this something that I want to do? Is this something that I want to do? See, we don't ask ourselves that question. We just jump into it. Or is this something that I need to do right now? Or is this something that maybe I have to do? Because when you ask yourself and you stop living on automatic pilot, then what happens is you are able to unplug, and be able to say, how does this work for me? Because a lot of times our energy is drained because we are plugged into things that we don't even recognize or realize that we are still plugged into. Some of us are still plugged into relationships that didn't work. We're still plugged into things that society has said. We're still plugged into things that our parents might have said about us. We're still plugged in. And it is those things that drain our energy. Some of us never unplug our coffee pot. We never unplug our what is that thing? Our toaster. We never unplug these things. And then we wonder why our electric bill is so high. Because nothing has been unplugged. And so you're walking around with a high electric bill emotionally, mentally, and you're drained because you never unplug, you never resolve, you never settle it, you never release it. And so you're already giving out currency. And so when something comes along, you have nothing to give because you are completely drained. You know, being the oldest one with my siblings, and everybody calls me pretty much for everything. What do you think we should do about this? You know, what about, my daughter's going through such and such a thing. And somehow they just think that I'm supposed to have all the answers. And you know why they think that? Because that's what I've given them. I've taught them. You need something? Call me. You need an answer? Let's do research. And then you wonder why, and I wonder why. Why am I so exhausted? Why I don't want to talk anymore? It's because I've created this circle of people that are to depend on me. I've not created an exchange, but I've created, come to me. I got the answer. I'm this. And I'm on automatic pilot until now I've learned to unplug. And so now when they call me and say, blah, 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 blah. And I said, you know what? I think you should look at that. I'm almost sure if you look at some of the choices you've made, you'll be able to figure that out. Because, honey, The more you figure out for other people, the more they want from you. And you be thinking that there's an end. Well, once we answer this, once we figure this out, then it's all over. Now they can take up and do. No, they cannot. My son is 51 years old, and he still calls, Mom, my head is hurting. Well, have you thought about taking an aspirin? It is so important to think and ask yourself these simple questions. Is this something that I want to do? Is this something that I feel like I need to do? And know the difference. Because sometimes there are things that you need to do. You don't necessarily want to do it. You need to do it, and it's okay because it's about being honest with yourself. You know, not everything you want to do, but there are some things that you need to do in order to enhance your life. Or if you're on a job that no longer brings you satisfaction or whatever, but you might need to be there. But if I'm honest with myself and I said, you know what, I need to be here right now because this supports my lifestyle, because I need to eat, I need to sleep, I need to have a roof over my head. But because I'm honest with myself and I know that this is not what I want, I now have a clear path of saying, this is just what I'm doing right now. And so what that does is it allows me now to be open to the possibilities of other things that can occur in my life. See, like, I mean, you know, you create your reality. And when you're honest with yourself, I'm doing this, I don't want to do it. I don't have the fulfillment that I used to have anymore. Guess what? But I'm going to do this for right now. But because I'm honest with myself, I can say this is right now. And now I can go and be open to looking at other possibilities. See, that's the renewing of your spirit. You're being honest with yourself. Ooh, It's so important to be honest with yourself. With spring renewal, what better time than to spring to regroup, to realize what's important, to reinvent ourselves and our lives that we find ourselves living in, to regroup. Like sometimes you got to change your surrounding, change the people that you've allowed to be up close and personal in your life. Look at your circle. And if you have a circle that is draining, have you ever had people that the phone rings and you already know that this person is not going to be positive? This person doesn't really care about you, your emotions, or what it is that you're going through, that this person is simply draining. Oh, and so sometimes you have to rearrange, reinvent your circle of people. Know those people that, you know, you can have those people that the exchange is so dynamic that they encourage you, you encourage them. Because listen, in this thing called life, you need to be encouraged. We all need encouragement. We all need support. We are not created to be islands. And we all bring some good stuff to the table. But if your table is set and you bring the protein and you bring the vegetables and you bring the salad and everybody's just sitting around feasting, then that drains you. Even now, you know, for the holidays, you can't even afford to bring everything. Honey, now it's like what you bring to the table. You bring the potato salad. I'll do the turkey. You do the dressing. And it makes for a wonderful celebration. But if that one person is doing everything, hell, by the time you get to the table, they are exhausted. They can't even enjoy the festivities of their own gathering. And that's how it is in life. You get exhausted. You got to bring what you got, what you bring to the table. I was telling my daughter, like when she got ready to, start dating and, finding, her husband or whatever. And, we have a tendency to think as women, that we kind of know more, we kind of ahead, and it comes from, I realize where it comes from, because when I look at my children, when I look at my son and I look at my daughter, with my daughter, I really did teach her to be very, very, very independent. That's the thing we do. Like, girl, don't be dependent on no man. Don't depend on nobody. Like no. If he brings it to the table, fine. If he don't be outdoors. Don't be homeless behind a man. That's kind of the energy we give our daughters. But my son, I taught him to be codependent, not even recognizing that that's what I was doing. But all he had to do was take out the trash. That's all, just take out the trash. Everything else. We got this. As women, we work and then we come home and then we cook and then, our environment has taught us not to necessarily share equally the chores and the things that need to be done. And so, but when I caught myself, I said to her, look, no, 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 no. It doesn't matter. Whatever he brings to the table, let him bring that to the table. And whatever you do, don't make any decisions or choices without his input. Even if he doesn't know what he's doing, he will learn what he needs to do if you open up that opportunity. Because if not, you start having regrets, because you will be laying in the bed, stressed out, worried about trying to make it happen. And guess what? He'll be laid over there sleeping. No. So, you gotta share, even if they don't know, share, because they will find out, and that's how they can learn to know what needs to be done in situations. So as we are having the renewal, the spring renewal, and the thing about spring renewal is this: it doesn't, listen, it's just not a one-time thing. It doesn't just have, like we got spring, we got fall, we got winter. We can have those things occur in our lives constantly. So it's not a one-time thing, because life is constant change. Things are constantly happening. So you might have to have a spring renewal several times a year. Whenever you find yourself being drained, whenever you find yourself being exhausted, it is time for you to have a spring renewal. Spring renewal. You need to declutter your living space. You need to declutter what's living in your mind. What's holding you back from creating the life that you deserve and desire? You might have to declutter, let go of some of that stuff. Some of us are still living off of thoughts and things that no longer serve us. Woo. Declutter. That's the importance of meditation. That's why we do meditation when you come on. We're trying to allow you to declutter, to let go. No matter what you went through last night, no matter what you went through this morning, let go, declutter, so that your mind is open to the possibilities, open to the renewing of your spirit, open to maybe hear something that will serve you better. Declutter. Oh, we need to clean out mental and emotional clutter, those old pains of the past. Who do I need to forgive? Who do I need to forgive? What am I holding on? Because let me tell you this: when you don't forgive, when you don't release, when you don't let go, don't think every decision and every choice you make It comes from that pain. It don't even have to have anything to do with it, but just the way you think, it shapes your mind, it shapes your view of life. And when you don't forgive and you don't let go, you create a life that is based off of pain. So sometimes we need to let go. We need to forgive somebody. I need to let it go. What are some of the old thoughts that keeps creeping up in my mind? I must begin to live consciously. See, when you don't live consciously and you're on automatic pilot, before you know it, those old thoughts will creep back up in your mind. But when you live consciously, you can begin to say, oh, wait a minute, wait. There was a time I would have done it that way, but I like to think that I've evolved a little bit and I've grown and I've had some experiences. Hopefully, that will allow me to see things just a little bit different. See, you get to catch yourself because your environment or what you have been brought up in sometimes is so deeply impacted within you. But when you live consciously, you get to say, wait a minute, does that serve me? Will that serve me? Or maybe I was the type of person to retaliate. Where has that gotten me? Or maybe I was the type of person that couldn't forgive. Well, how has that impacted my life? When you have the renewing of your spirit and your newness, and you're living consciously, you will recognize that no longer serves me. I'm going to have to let that go. Ooh, that's a good one. When we think of our renewal, we often think of a rebirth. Something old dies, something new is reborn. But why not use the season of renewal as a reminder to get rid of things that are weighing us down and snapping our energy? What is weighing you down? What is holding you back? Only you can answer that question. Allow yourself to let go of the past to make room for new things to come in your life. The Spirit says, I give you free will. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to push it on you. I give you free will. Your choices are your choices. See, that's what's so beautiful about life. Free will. And if something serves you, keep it. But if it no longer serves you, then with free will, why would you continue to choose something that no longer serves you? Or why would you choose something that does not bring you peace? I'll tell you why in a minute. Ooh. Now, this is a new one that came to me. It says, let fear be your friend. Ooh. Can I say that again? Let fear be your friend as a reminder that this is something that you've never done before, and you can turn your fear into excitement. Let fear be, once you start like, I've never done that before. And, and your fear creeps in, like, what are people going to think? How am I going to show up? Let fear be your friend. No, I've never done this before. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to do it. I don't know what I'm going to, but I'm going to do it. I allow fear to be my friend. Sometimes I'm so saturated with fear, but what I've come to know is those things that have brought me the greatest fear has brought me the greatest insight. They've brought me the greatest joy. They brought me the greatest feeling of accomplishment. Woo! Let fear be your friend. Come on. Oh yeah, I got fear. I'm gonna be honest with myself. I'm a little nervous right now. Yeah, I'm feeling something because I've never done it before. But I'm gonna trust. I'm gonna trust the process. I'm gonna trust that everything is working for my highest good, even if it don't turn out the way that I thought it should turn out. I'm going to trust and I'm going to allow this fear. What this fear is telling me is that I'm getting ready to embark upon a journey that I've not been on before. I'm getting ready to have an experience that I've never had before. And guess what? I'm up for the challenge. Why am I up for the challenge? Because I've renewed my spirit, because I've recharged my batteries, because I know I have what it takes in order to make it through. I don't know how I'm going to make it through. I don't know what's on the other side of making it through, but I do know I got the energy and the excitement and the passion to make it through. See, you can't have passion without the renewing of your spirit. What gives you passion? Some of us we don't have no passion. We're just going through life. We're just going through life day after day, doing the same thing, trying to be safe. But that safety takes away our adventure. It takes away our desire. And before you know it, you become very bored with life. And when you become very bored with life, then you create other addictions like, okay, maybe eating, maybe shopping, maybe drugs, maybe alcohol, because there's no excitement. And what I'm realizing is that, I will be 69 years old. And I know those here that, or it might even be a little bit older. Honey, it is up to you to create. Am I right? Is it up to you to create the adventure, to keep you wanting to get up the next day, to keep you wanting to embark upon life, to keep you wanting to see what's next, what's next, what's next? That comes with the renewing of your spirit. But if you keep plugging into things that don't give you energy, if you keep plugging into situations and problems, if you keep plugging into woe is me, victimhood, if you keep plugging in, that drains your energy. And in order to live and live abundantly, you got to have energy. You got to have energy, and you've got to renew your spirit. Okay, so we're cleaning out stuff for new rebirth. Allow yourself to let go of the past so that new things can come. Some of us, we live. Listen, it is what it is. If it happened, it happened. You can't change it. It is what it is. But what holds you hostage is what you have made it be in your life. It is, if somebody broke your heart, it is what it is. They broke your heart. And you took that to be, maybe I'm not worthy of love. What is wrong with me? No, they broke your heart because they were broken. They were broken. And you can't ask broken people to love you. Okay, I get excited. But when you can just say, it is what it is, this was the experience that I had. What did I get from it? See, you can let go of things once you know what did I get from that? Well, one of the things I got is that when they told me that nobody had ever loved them, I should have known. Why would I take that challenge on? I should have passed on. Okay. They tried to tell me, but no, I am Captain Save a Person, right? Oh no, I can save you. Nobody's ever loved you the way that I'm gonna love you. Oh, wait, hold on. And next thing you know, honey, you are broken too. So, but when you get what you need to get from a situation, you let it go. Like I held on most of my life with my mom. Oh, my mom, she didn't love me the way I needed to be loved. Well, girl, she didn't even love herself. And so in the beginning, of course, you don't know that. You don't know that because you're young. But as you evolve and you grow and you start having other experiences and you start meditating and you start getting to know yourself and getting with yourself and reading books that tell you about yourself, then you begin to realize, wait a minute, she did her best. She did her best. That was all that she could give. Now, should I continue to punish myself? Should I continue to feel less of myself because the person that I took to be my God could not give me what I felt like I needed to get? Or with the renewing of my spirit, do I give it to myself? Do I love myself? Do I cherish myself? Do I hold myself in high regards? Am I grateful for who I am? Am I grateful and know that all the experiences that I've gone through have made me who I am? Do I live with regrets? Or do I take those things that I didn't like and understand that they were my greatest insight because they made me recognize and realize who I am and that the God in me, God and God, have everything we need in order for us to express ourselves here on earth as Reverend Frida. Woo! That's what happens with the renewing of your spirit. Ooh, when your spirit is renewed, when you're excited, when you have passion, you're like, bring it on, because you know you have what it takes. But when you're mentally exhausted, emotionally exhausted, then no, you cannot. Okay, let fear be your friend. That's a new one. Take that one. Okay, spring renewal means that you have to face that you have a constant companion. You have a constant companion, and their name is ego. Ooh, a constant companion, and their name is ego. Now, I'm one that says, no, I don't want to get rid of my ego, because let me tell you, your ego plays a part. Everything that you were given plays a part. It's when it's out of balance. It's when it's telling you things, or making you be concerned or have fear about things that you shouldn't. But the ego plays a part, and it is a constant companion. And so when you face the ego likes to live in the old. See, that's when you know the ego is playing a part. It wants to live in the old. It wants to think that it knows everything. It wants the things that is familiar. See, because when you're with a surrounding that you're familiar, then guess what? You don't have to think. You don't have to renew your spirit. You already know what's going to happen. I dealt with domestic violence, and the question sometimes that they would ask the women or the men is, why did you stay? And what the answer would be, it's because I knew what he was going to do. I knew how to deal with it. I knew that if I did this, this would set him off. But maybe if I did this, this wouldn't set it off. In other words, I was familiar. I was familiar with this pain because where I came from, what my mother sent me through, I know how to deal with this. This feels like love to me. This rejection feels like love to me. And the ego will say, let's stay. It's better to stay because the ego wants to be in control. It is a guiding force that always creates and is always afraid of the unknown. I tell people all the time, I live in the I don't know. Whoo! And my ego be flapping. No, girl, no, 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 I don't. I don't know. Because when you're in the I don't know, what that says is that I'm open to the knowingness of God. It means I'm open to the process. I'm open to patience, to be able to allow the universe, to allow love, to allow God to send me the answer. But see, if I think I know, the answer could be right there in front of you. Matter of fact, the answer is always there. But if you think you know, you can't see the answer. Ooh, ego. Ego likes to think it's certain. And it likes to think that it knows what's best for you in all situations. And I don't care how old you may be. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your experiences may be. You do not always know what's best for all situations. And that really should relieve you. That should take the load off of your shoulders. You know, I love it when I walk into a room and I don't have to know everything. And if I walk into a room that I think I know everything, I'm in the wrong room. Whoo, whoo. Ego in this content is your self-image. It's the story about yourself. But it's even more than that. Ego in this content is the emotional, listen to this, it is the emotional investment that you have put into your self-image. It's your attachment to the story that you tell yourself about yourself that causes you to defend yourself no matter what. It's the story that others, society, religion has created, and you have taken it to be your truth. We all, you know, without our stories, we don't know who we are. We have taken our stories, we have taken these stories and we've made it who we are. And our stories have nothing to do with who we are. Our stories are things that we've experienced. Our stories are things that we've gone through, but our stories are not who we are. Our stories are not who people tell us that we are. Our stories, like, the story of if you're a Black woman, life is hard. That's a story. Or if you are lesbian or gay, God doesn't love you. You are an abomination. That's a story. And that is not your story. You are so much more than the things that you go through. You're so much more than the things that have occurred to you. You are so much more. There's so much more to you. But in order for you to express yourself, to exercise who you are, you have to renew your spirit. That's your job. That's your responsibility to take care of yourself. And let me tell you this, you don't get no credit for taking care of other people. You can, and those of us who are in this field of, spiritual field of helping, and no, honey, you get no credit because that's not how it works. Because you are not a sacrificial lamb. I used to think, I was a caretaker, and I raised my mom's kids. There was 6 of us. And because my mom, I felt, she was who she was. Oh, but my poor sisters and brothers, I don't want them to suffer and have to go through that. So guess what I did? I stepped in that role and I became their caretaker. And somehow I thought with caretaking them that would take care of me. And that's not how it works. And then not only did I take care of my sisters and brothers, then guess what? I stepped in the role of being a minister. Now I'm going to take care of the world. Oh, wait a minute. And then I started working in a nonprofit dealing with HIV and AIDS, then guess what? For people of color, I'm going to take care of all the Black people. And you know what happened? I crashed and burned. I burned like a 747. When I hit that, and I flatlined. And I was so exhausted, you guys, because you cannot take care of people. People are accountable and responsible for their own choices. You can lead the horse to the water, but you cannot slap that horse's head. Woo! I was dragging people to the water. I was pulling people to the water. I was pushing people to the water. I was holding people in the water. You know, there's a scripture, there's a story in the Bible. It says, you know, the man, he came with the bed and he was sick, and he said, Lord, you know, why didn't you? He said, I troubled the water. All you needed to do was step in the water. So even Jesus said, you got to step in the water. People got to step in the water, y'all. And then let me tell you, if you drag them and you push them in the water, if they go down in the water, they come up wet, but still the same. They had dry problem, now they got wet problem. Matter of fact, they add that on to the problem. Oh, I can't believe it, Reverend Frida. Now I'm wet. Then you begin to feel responsible for them. You know, as parents, you know, it comes a time when you're no longer responsible for your children. I remember my son and I, one day, I realized, I was like, wait a minute. You know, he's telling me things, Mom, you know, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And I listened with an open heart, because if my listening can help him, then I definitely want to give that to him. I listened without any excuses. I listened, and I said, I hear what you're saying. And this is what I said to him. This is unplugging. What I said to him is that I promise you, I know I didn't make every decision and every choice was right. I know when I look back, some of the things I've done, I could have done different. I know that some things that I did hurt you. But what I also know is that I did my best. And what I also know is that every choice I made came from love. And if I was wrong, please forgive me. Because sometimes you've got to unplug, honey. You've got to unplug, because I can't carry you no more. You can't blame me no more, because your life now belongs to you. Doesn't matter where you came from. Each one of us, does not matter where you come from. It's all about where you are now and where it is that you're choosing to go. Woo, renewing of your spirit, honey. Because we were both on the same oxygen tank. I'm still trying to people please him. I'm still trying to give him a decision. And you become an enabler. Sometimes we enable people. Sometimes you got to unplug. You got to like say, you know, hey, it's on you now, my brother. It's on you. And not feel guilty. Not feel guilty. How can you feel guilty about the choices that you made when we're all doing our best? Listen, we're always doing our best. We can always do better, but we are always doing our best. When you renew your spirit, you recognize that and you can let go. Ooh. This is an important and beneficial awakening. In other words, when you wake up, you will have great temptations to go back to what is familiar. The ego will seek that it knows, which it feels like, and even a painful life is sometimes better for the eagle than the eagle to face the unknown. True self moves forward for new experience. See, you crave new experiences. I tell you that all the time. We came here to experiment and experience this thing called life. So take the judgment off yourself. I don't care what choices you've made. Take the judgment off yourself and realize that this is you doing what you came. You didn't come here to be familiar with life. You didn't come here to do the same thing over and over and over again. You came here to experiment and experience this thing called life. You came here to express God's self as you. Woo! And when you realize that, you get excited. In my closing, ooh, when I studied for this, I just got so excited because when you renew your spirit, you are so ready to spread your wings and take off. Like Patti LaBelle's song says, you have a new attitude. From my head to my toes, I have a new attitude. I have a new outlook on life. I see the new possibilities of life, no matter what's going on in the world. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't care. It doesn't mean that you don't share. You can share, but sharing is totally different than giving what you don't have to give. Know the difference. Sharing means I first have to give to myself. I first must fill my cup up. And this girl said, it's not even about my cup overflows and I give from the overflow. It's about giving from the saucer. You know that's left in the saucer, okay? So that means your cup is constantly overflowing, right? But the renewing of your spirit, that means, yes, things are happening in the world that we don't like. Yes, it could be really pulling on our spirits and on our soul. Yes, there's a part that we can play, but you can only play your part if your spirit, if your soul, if you are renewed, if you have the energy. You must have the energy. You must recharge your batteries. You must make yourself so important. And I'm not talking from an ego position, but I mean, I must take care of myself. If I take care of myself, if I renew my spirit, then I have something to share. God bless you. Thank you. That's it. It's a wrap.
Wow, Reverend Frida, that was rich. That was rich. Oh, goodness, guys. We have a couple of minutes for question and answer. If there's something that Reverend Frida said that perhaps you have a situation in your life, you might want a little coaching on how to go deeper in it. Maybe you heard something and you want to hear it again. We have a couple minutes. Feel free to raise your hand. And when I call on you, you'll have the opportunity to unmute and speak your question so that Reverend Frida can answer it. While your question is downloading and while you're preparing to hit that raise hand button, Reverend Frida, you mentioned something about forgiveness, and I'd love to hear that highlighted again. And what I heard uh, was something like, when you don't forgive, then every decision is made from that pain. So if you could kind of highlight that, because that really jumped out at me. When you don't forgive, every decision is made from that pain. Something like that you said. If you would,
Yes.
if you would highlight that for us, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
You when you don't forgive, when you're holding on and you think somehow that's that situation over there and that's not going to impact the decisions and choices that I'm making over here, that's not true, because anything that you're holding on to, when you make choices and decisions in your life, it comes from all of you, all of your experiences, all that you've gone through. And so if you have not forgiven, then it really does affect your choices and the things that you choose in your life. Forgiveness, as we know, and especially there's two kinds. Forgiveness, first of all, it's never about us, right? It's about, we're not saying that that person was right or wrong. That person might have been wrong, might have been whatever, but it's not for that person, right? It's for us, right? It's for us to be able to get our lives back again. Because when you don't forgive, that means you've given your power away, that somebody has a piece of your life. Okay. And so you don't realize it makes you powerless in that situation. Now, radical forgiveness. Now, that's a whole nother level of forgiveness. Radical forgiveness says that when you get to a certain level spiritually, you realize that everything is for your highest good. And if it's for my highest good, then guess what? There's nothing to forgive. But you got to meditate to get that one, Garrett.
Mm.
You can't just wake up one day and say, oh, that was for my highest good. No, that means, that you've really kind of gone within and that you really realize that whatever you went through made you who you are. And you've taken from it the lesson, or you've taken the jewel from it. And the jewel from it is maybe that I need to maybe not allow this particular thing in my life again. Or maybe the jewel from it could be, oh, I was broken when I allowed this to happen. And I needed to see my brokenness. And now that I've grown. So that's that radical forgiveness. That means you're taking accountability, full accountability of the choices and the things that have happened in your life. And that one I'm still working on.
It sounds like it's a constant job, a
Yes, yes,
constant
yes,
job.
yes, yes,
And what I hear a lot of is slowing down and just checking in with yourself.
yes,
Pretty rich,
yes,
just
yes.
pretty rich. We have another question from Annalise. If you would go ahead and unmute.
I did. It's more of a comment or what I'm taking away from the service. Two things. And I think I saw some agreement of how you can lead the horse to water, and if they go in, it's just a wet. I'm sorry. I know I thought that was hysterical. And I think there were 3 or 4 or 5 other people who thought, well, you've still got the same problem. It's just wet. It
Yes,
weighs more.
yes,
It's saturated. It's even
yes,
more. I thought
yes,
that
yes,
was good. It's even more saturated.
yes,
And then the second thing is, you and I have talked about, kind of some of the projects I'm up
yes,
to, and what I hope to talk to Garrett about and inspire, frankly. And what I notice is that the team, it's around a diversity game I'm playing, and um, how important I'm just looking in the chat, the renew, the resting, the nap inside of leadership. So in the space of about 2 months, I've built a team of more than 100 people. I've had all of these people say yes to me. I've had one no. And what that looks like of checking in with myself about time management, resting, spiritual. So just kind of a practical. I'm taking away kind of a practical bit about
yes,
preparing for these kinds of conversations, because I'm giving my word and I'm being accountable and responsible. So I think that inside of renewing, anytime you're looking at something new and generating and creating, it's also about capacity
yes.
in many different areas. So that's what I'm also taking away from the service. So thank you.
Listen, spirituality without practicality is no good. Don't be so heavenly bound that you're no earthly good, because we're here on earth. We're here on earth. Yes, you can go, you definitely have to have your spiritual practice in place, but you also got to have practicality in place too. That's when you don't have that, then you're out of balance. I talked about that being out of balance, right? Giving what you don't have to give. And listen, and this is important too. You got to ask yourself, where am I coming from with my giving? Like so what's driving me? Because we can be driven, but what's driving? And if you don't know what's driving you, you don't know where you're going. Then you're just driven, and a lot of times we're driven out of our own lack. Most I've heard most ministers, most reverends, from where I come from, when you talk to them, they tell you about, the reason why they got into ministry was because of their own pain, or because of, things that have occurred to them. That is not a reason to get into anything. You should only do what you do because you want to do it. Because when you want to do something, it comes from a space of love, comes from a space of gratitude. But when you're doing something because of your pain, let me tell you, you don't know how to stop. You don't know how to rest because you're just driven. And let me tell you how you know you're driven. When you go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and you don't even stop and appreciate the things that you've accomplished when you're driven. I remember my daughter saying to me, she was like, going to school, and I said, and she was getting her master's, and I said, okay, well, or when is the graduation? Oh, mom, I'm not having a graduation because I'm still working on my PhD. And I'm like, what? Like, we can't appreciate and celebrate this accomplishment? And that's how we are sometimes in our lives. That's when you're driven. You don't even stop to appreciate your own accomplishments. You'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah. But I got to do this. Now that's being driven by your own pain, by some experiences you've had. And when you're driven like that, then you don't know when to stop. You don't know where you're going. You don't know how to even appreciate who you are. So there's no renewing of your spirit because you're just on and on and on. You're like the Duracell battery. It goes on and on. No, honey, I need the rechargeable battery because you need to stop and recharge. Stop, recharge, appreciate who you are and your accomplishments, where you came from. Okay? That is so crucial.